Members, I call Committee of the Whole on Bill 7, the Economic Stabilization Tariff Response Act, to order. We are on Clause 14. Shall Clause 14 pass? Recognizing the member for Richmond, Queensborough.
Thank you, Chair. On Clause 14, the next, my colleague here from Kelowna Mission was asking questions about international agreements last time in regards to Clause 10, I believe. So I have a similar question for Clause 14. Can the Attorney General provide a maybe a detailed legal analysis of how Clause 14 interacts with Canada's obligations under the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement? So if there is agreement in place, what would this do, and does this, how would it affect BC? What would be the legal consequences, and would there be any sort of consequences legally and also financially for BC?
Recognizing the Attorney General.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an enabling power to provide a charge for BC infrastructure. So it's to do with for putting a toll fee or charge on that infrastructure. Now, where you would get into a trade agreement is through differential treatment. And this falls in line with the discussion we've had on almost every part, is that we are a country that, and a jurisdiction that abides by our trade agreement, except in this context where we are experiencing a bad actor in our trade agreement. So this would be, could be designed, and it would be at the time when the regulation was created. So you'd have to do that legal analysis depending on the actual place that you're deciding to put or to use these powers. If you are treating one government different than another, then a trade agreement could be implicated depending on the context. But the idea and the tool is there to make sure that we have a tool in the context of a bad actor like America in this trade war. We have a tool to target that. So in that context, they're already breaching the trade agreement, the bad actor.
Recognizing the member.
Some trade agreements involve multiple parties or multiple countries, such as this one that I just referenced. It has Mexico in there, and we see that there's a traffic from Mexico. We have migrant workers here. We got people doing business here, and I think until recently there was no visa requirement to come from Mexico to Canada. That may have changed. So we are dealing with the agreement, and say if like there's a bad actor, and in regards to clause 14 here, and we're talking about tolls, and we're saying that, okay, we're gonna circumvent this trade agreement because there's a bad actor, but there's still another party there that's not a bad actor. How do we kind of reconcile that?
Recognizing the minister.
Thanks. So again, this would be something that could be analyzed if you ever were in a situation where the cabinet wanted to use any of these powers. So at the time of making the regulation, you could consider how to use not only clause 4, but in line with clause 18, to design it in a way that only impacted the target of your retaliatory measure and not other targets.
Recognizing the member.
So just in regards to that point, currently we're dealing with the Attorney General's department here right now, but later on, another minister that is not part of the Attorney General portfolio may be looking at this. And then we are looking at legal issues. Would the Attorney General's office be working in what's the word? A coalition with that other ministry in terms of, because there are some legal questions here.
Recognizing the minister.
Thank you, Chair. So my ministry, and with my role as being the Chief Legal Officer and our team here being the legal team that advises government, of course, we would be very much advising with any legal implications or legal analysis to do with anything. And the other part that I would say is this is a cabinet decision, so it would involve, the use of this power would involve a discussion of all ministers at that table.
Recognizing the member.
Thank you for answering that question. And once again, I thank the Attorney General staff and for all their hard work they're doing today to provide answers. So going further, I have a question about the administration of such a tolling provision. Has the government conducted any feasibility studies, procurement planning, or interagency consultations to assess regulatory enforcement and administrative infrastructure needed to collect and enforce tolls under Clause 14 across provincial undertakings such as BC ferries or key highways?
Recognizing the minister.
Thanks. So as an enabling piece of legislation, it gives the power of the minister and the cabinet to do the things that we have set out. So the Ministry of Transportation understands how to do these kind of things. As we know the history of the province, there have been times where there have been tolls on certain infrastructure in BC. So, but I just would say that as an enabling piece of legislation that we hope never to use, the actual, at the time of making a regulation, would be the time that the analysis of how and if that particular charge or toll would be implemented, given the skills of the Ministry of Transport with history and knowing how to do this, and clauses like the ones we will get to, clause 16, allow for a contemplation of arrangements that could be in place about how to do it.
Recognizing the member.
A follow-up question to that. Normally when we get a piece of legislation, it's even enabling legislation, it's there to, it's there after considering what tools we need. And once you figure out what tools you need, you do the legislation. And so my question is, did the Attorney General's office review the exact tools that are needed to actually collect tolls and enforce tolls? Was that done? Because we have legislation here, and there has to be some sort of structure to the legislation. It must be enabling of something. So it must be enabling of certain tools. So so basically going back to the question about was there studies done in terms of like the tools that are needed, and this actual legislation, does it actually address those? And I understand that the Attorney General has said that the appropriate ministry would know how to operate these, but my respectful submission is that to come up with the legislation, obviously that legislation, even in enabling in nature, there would be a purpose to it, right? There would be a purpose to it, and it would allow certain tools to work. So was there some of that study done?
Recognizing the minister.
Thank you. So exactly what the member is asking is what is contained in the clauses of the bill. So my team, along with the Ministry of Transport and any other relevant ministries that understands how charges or fees could be collected in infrastructure, work together to understand which enabling powers are needed in order to implement such a regime. So those are exactly the clauses that we're talking about today. So with that, Chair, I move that the committee rise, report progress, and ask leave to sit again.
Thank you, Minister. You've heard the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion is carried. This committee is now adjourned. Thank you.